Okay.
Sucks to be you. Welcome to. Okay, I was confused. It's technically August, but this is July's book. So August's book club meeting for July's book, which was "The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet" by Becky Chambers.
Way to make it complicated.
Which?
Way to make it complicated. July is August of the book meeting.
Yeah. Welcome to book club then. Okay, book club. And yeah, so we've been reading The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers as selected by Mary. So if you're joining us, we'd love to know what you thought about the book as we moan and bitch and cry and get excited about how awesome or how terrible the book was. So Mary, take it away. Tell us, what's the book about?
Well, yeah, I don't think I'm going to be moaning too much, but anyway. Right, so Becky Chambers, The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet is about a girl called Rosemary Harper, and she's trying to leave her kind of difficult family situation in life behind her and go out into the stars to try and find her purpose or whatever. Well, basically, she's just escaping. So she joins the crew of the Wayfarer as the clerk, right? And anyway, it's a multi-species crew, and she's never been really out in space before. She lived a really sheltered life. She was kind of bubble wrapped, and you know, obviously life on a crew is really different. It can be difficult. There's a lot of problems and adventures and stuff. So she has to kind of integrate herself into the crew, but she also has to kind of lie about her past and really everything, and she just dodges questions all the time. But actually, it's really great because it's not just about Rosemary, and I kind of thought going in that she'd be the main character all the way through, but really you get to meet and see behind the lives of all the different characters on the crew, which is really class. And thanks be to God, because Rosemary is the worst character in the book. But that's not necessarily bad, because the other characters are so awesome that it just sucks to be her, you know? Yeah. That's the gist of the book. And also the Captain Santoso, has basically accepts this amazing job, and they have to go all the way across the galaxy to this small angry planet, and they get paid a shitload of money for doing it. Yeah, essentially. I'm good at it.
You literally summed up the book there in the last sentence, because that's what it's actually about. It's about.
Yeah, well, whatever. I didn't care about that bit. I like the characters. I care about the characters.
And what was your initial impression? Like what did you think?
Honestly, because I heard so much about this book, about how much it was really like Firefly and kind of like One Piece and stuff, and I was dead excited to read it because I love both those things. And I remember I got about, I think, to the second chapter when it was the complaint, and it was Ashby and Corbin kind of speaking for the first time, and I was kind of like a little bit bummed because I was like, oh, this doesn't feel like my kind of book. I don't know if I'm actually gonna like this. So I left it for ages before I picked it up again, and I'm so glad I did, because if it wasn't for book club, I don't know if I would have. Which is just me being difficult, really. But no, it was really, really good. But that was my first impression, first few pages.
Okay, do you know what they say? Don't judge the book by the cover and all that malarkey.
Yeah.
I judge the book by the back of the cover, so the back of the book, so the back book. And even the way you kind of you summarized it there, Mary. You know, it's about this girl. You know, she's very sheltered. She goes to space. La 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 la. I was like, oh no, it's not going to be one of those books. Just self-discovery. No. Just okay. I don't read a lot of science fiction. And okay, when I say don't read a lot of science fiction, I read superheroes, and that would be kind of the extent of my science fiction dabbling. Space and all that. I'm actually kind of terrified of space, so I don't like reading about it. I don't like immersing myself in the idea of this big, vast, expanse of terrifying nothingness. But and when I picked it up, it starts with her literally kind of, if I remember correctly, it starts with her in kind of a single pod on her way to the Wayfarer. She's kind of coming in and out of kind of consciousness as the meds that she took, because it's a weird long distance thing, and it's like, okay, this is interesting. This isn't your usual humding malarkey crap. And then she gets there, and then it turns out, like, you know, literally she's greeted by this kind of cantankerous, and I suppose the book for me, because it is a journey, like it takes them one year to kind of complete this journey from one into space that they're at. One standard. Which we have to get to, by the way, because I'm very bad at math, but I was trying to figure out all that weird fucking calendar bullshit. Like, oh, it's 4 10 days. What the fuck's a 10 day? And why is she in space?
I loved that bit, but okay.
Okay, no, I did know, because what I really enjoyed, I think, about the book, and I'm always one of those first people kind of to bitch and moan about how the world building can kind of consume a novel and spend so long kind of going, and this is the rule for this planet, and this is the rule for that kingdom, and this race do this thing. I don't know how she did it.
Me too.
Becky Chambers did it, because I mean, you have on the Wayfarer alone, you have three humans. You've Corbin, Ashby, and Rosemary. You have Sissix, who is
Andrisk.
Yes, sorry, they're the weird bird lizard people.
Lizard bits with the feathers. And then there's Grum. Dr. Chef is Grum.
Dr. Chef, yeah.
Sludge thing.
You have Ohan then, who is
that pair.
Yes. And you have I suppose you've Kizzy and Jenks, and Kizzy, and they're human as well, but Jenks is he's dwarf.
He's a dwarf, yeah.
Yes.
But how could you forget Lovey, an AI?
Yes.
AI.
Hey. Ashby does as well. So you shut up.
Okay. But anyway,
it is. It's. I have to kind of agree with you. If I picked this up, or I'd been given this, and I just read maybe the back cover, I'd have been like, oh, thanks for the gift. Do you have just in case? So I don't know. I think I certainly got it wrong, Mary, because I'm always the first person to slag off your taste in the books.
Yeah, awkward. I have amazing taste in books. Come on, I do. Admit it.
I know. But no, I've thoroughly enjoyed this book. I think, as I was saying, the world building, it's done in such a way that, I mean, you get to learn about, the various different cultures that Chambers had kind of created, but you're learning it through, I think that's what she does very, very well. Rosemary is familiar with all these different aspects. She's familiar with the Andrisks, but she doesn't know a whole lot about them. So what she knows, she's kind of gleaned from scholarly articles, or what she's read, let's say online, or through linkings. But it's really through her experience that we get to learn an awful lot more about them, and then ultimately how they interact with humans and how humans interact with them. It's done so well, and it's the same kind of book where you kind of, did you feel like, I don't know about you, but the journey, I was like, okay, nothing really happens.
Yeah, that's true, but it's
there's no giant overarching
dramatic thing.
Yes, there's no big battle at the end. There's no big revelation at the end. There's a lot of events, when they're boarded and the whole thing. It's done so well, but you do kind of start to feel I didn't feel the book dragged, but almost like the way the journey started, especially towards the end. You're like, I'm kind of getting sick of the journey. Are we there yet? And that's literally, it's done in a way that by the time you've caught up to the crew, they're at that same phase. They're sniping, they're bitching, they're homesick.
Yeah.
And you're like, I feel the same way. Are we bloody there yet?
Yeah, I'm not surprised it won the Arthur C. Clarke Award. It really was fantastic. And just speaking about Sissix, the Andrisk, I think it's funny on the blurb, because she's described as the friendly reptilian pilot. I mean, she's pretty a lot more than friendly. It's great though, because the main things that are just so unusual about this book that you don't see in so many other ones are the gender bits, and the sex positiveness, and just it's just so unusual, and it's so consistent throughout. There's not one token bit. It's throughout the entire novel. Even the use of pronouns like ze and zer and stuff, and the fact that they called Ohan them instead of he, and a main character being gay. It's just, there's so much in it, and it doesn't feel like it was put in as a political thing. It just feels so seamless throughout. It just feels you couldn't really imagine it any other way. It's just so cool, and you don't see that in many books.
I do agree with you. I don't think the book was written with that intention at all. Certainly not. And I'm kind of getting mixed up, because I really did enjoy the way Becky Chambers handled the whole thing, because again, like you said, it's not only just a mixed species crew. The idea of gender, the idea of sexuality, and even the idea of emotions, each race handles them so differently. And I think is it Sissix and Dr. Chef both laugh at the fact that humans spend so much of their time kind of denying what emotions they have, or, you know, kind of filtering out the emotion.
Yeah, trying to repress it.
Yes, yeah, and they're sure, because that was, you know, with the various events that happened throughout it, and but I don't know, I like the book. It breaks down a whole lot. Like, it's not a case of, oh, you know, it doesn't make an issue out of Ohan being referred to as them or they, or even the way Ohan refers to themselves as us or we feel, because obviously, you know, they're sign at pair, like there's a host body and then there's the virus.
Yeah.
And again, it's not a big thing of, oh, we have to, you know, we have to watch ourselves. It's just, no, it's literally out of a matter of respect. That is how Ohan refers to itself or himself or themselves.
Yeah. And it's like, it's written in a way where it's like, that's the norm in the society, is to be courteous about that. And if you're not, then it would come across as really rude. And you see that in Rosemary's head.
Yes.
That's not acceptable. And even it was really cool, you know, with the whole racial slurs thing, like the way Corbin kept calling Andrus lizard. Like, it was really, really cool, you know, the way they did that. And
because it wasn't a case of, she didn't create this world of, yeah, you know, we've got the GC and everything's amazing, and, you know, all the species get on so well together. It's like, no, literally, how many times does Sissix use the phrase "you're a speciesist"? And there is, because I think one of the things I really, really enjoyed about the book was the way they, you know, because Chambers just kind of describes every character with amazing detail. You know, it's really, really interesting. But again, we often see that through Rosemary's eyes, and then you see the way, obviously, her experience or her perspective is that of a human. So she's immediately kind of drawn to the, and I'm going to mispronounce it, but the Eluans,
I think, yeah.
Yeah, the tall, we'll say, silver scaled, you know, majestic
winged beauties, and
and then to be like, you know, like, oh, they're beautiful. And then you look at then Dr. Chef, who was a 6-armed weird
big ball of.
Okay, I pictured him as you know, Lilo and Stitch.
Yeah, did you picture him as Stitch?
The scientist dude that created Stitch.
Oh yes, like a walrus or something.
Yes, but like 6. So I was like, that's Dr. Chef in my head the entire time. That's Dr. Chef.
I know. I thought he was the cutest little cutie. He was.
Rosemary. That's a herb, I believe. I'll get some rosemary. He was.
Also, the fact that Dr. Chef was a woman, like a female, for one part of his life, and then he became male, and then by the end of his life, he'll become something kind of fluidy in between or whatever.
Yeah, they don't. Yeah, because but what I loved is it's not a case of it. With Dr. Chef, it was all, you know, like, they're born female, and he refers to his daughters, but he never got a chance to be a father because he was female when he had his children, and they're all daughters. And then as they mature, and we're talking mature in the biological sense, we're talking mature in terms of mental or emotional spectrum here. But as they grow older, they change their sex. And then you have Sissix, who we find out has had kids of her own, and it's just, they're whatever. They're, you know, they're eggs. They're over there somewhere probably.
Yeah, and that was such a cool difference as well between, like, mammals and, you know, reptiles with the egg thing, you know, like, it was just really, really cool about the fact that she went through the whole thing of, like, she's in her feather family and she's still having fun and she's not ready to have babies, and she doesn't even recognize her children as her children, because that's not how it works in her society and her culture.
Yeah.
Like, it was so imaginative. Like, I hated her kind of, because I was like, oh my God, how did you come up with this stuff? And it was so easy to, like, visualize it.
I'm going to be honest, because I thought, you know, it's in space. We've learned that, you know, they're going on this mission. Okay, I thought they were going to be going to Earth. I was like, oh, I bet you Earth's this really
small, angry planet,
war-torn place, you know, full of, like, stupid people still blowing each other up. And then you find out, oh no, they did all that.
Yeah.
They had to go to space. And even
the galaxy thinks they're stupid. So
yes, yeah, literally, because you know, we had the whole Martian and the Exit and Divide. I just like, wow. And then now it's like, oh yeah, well, we're Martian and you're exiting, but we're all human. Wink, wink. There's no difference between us. Wink, wink.
We're all buddies now, you know. We didn't leave
No,
you to die. Like, it's cool.
No, I have to. I do have to kind of commend Chambers for that, because I mean, we weren't even discussing this for what, 19 minutes, and we've already touched on so many things in that book, and we haven't even kind of really gotten to what kind of happens or what's the outcome of this journey. But the whole thing is, it's huge. I mean, it's and it's not a big book. It's not.
No, it's only like 402 pages, and there's the amount of books that are published, and literally nothing happens. I mean, it's just so cool, because there were like exciting events throughout, like so many of them, and they were like wrapped up really quickly, but in a way that made you think it wasn't quickly. You know, like sometimes books spend chapters and chapters on this one scene, or you know, like when Game of Thrones, when it took like Stannis 2 seasons or whatever to cross Westeros or some shit, you know. But this, you know, you could have something sorted in a chapter, and like it was so surprising. So many of the things were surprising as well. Like the whole thing with Corbin, I did not see coming. Okay, and even like simple things, like at the very beginning when Jenks said something to Kizzy about want to smash before bed, I was like, they're totally doing it, but he meant like read or whatever. And then so the whole thing with Lovey really threw me for a loop. I was like, I didn't see that coming either, you know. But it was just, and the thing with Physics and Rosemary, like everything, every few.
Now that I did not see coming at all. I really, really didn't.
No, but it was so cool, because there were so many like mini surprises, you know, so that at the end you didn't need like a whole big reveal, or you know. Yeah.
Oh, it turns out, you know, the GC has been invaded by like an evil alien race, and we're all doomed, and we better escape. You're like, no, something bad happens, and then they try to deal with those consequences, because that's all they can do. They can deal. Yeah. And they try to move on with it, and the Wayfarer will kind of continue on. And I loved, because like Ashby, and this is kind of at the start of the book, but even kind of in the middle, he kind of talks about that, you know, that what he wants is he wants to stay in space for as long as he can, and then you know Kizzy will leave, or Jenks will go off, or Sizzix will find it in the ship, or Dr. Chef will, you know, he's the last of his race, so we know they're dying. And you know, he foresees all these things happening, and all he wants is to, you know, eventually park up and just go to a bar, and then randomly meet with his friends, and just spend the rest of his day doing that. And you're just like, there's nothing big or massively glamorous, or I said there's nothing exciting, or there's no
ego in it, you know. He just wants to like make some money to like be able to support his family, meet his girlfriend who's away at like war, and like hope she's safe. It's like really human stuff, which was just really, really cool. And I remember like when it changed to his point of view chapter, and I was kind of enjoying Rosemary's or something, and I was like, oh no, it's going to be a chapter change, whatever, I'm not going to like this. And then I remember it changed to Jenks as well when I was enjoying Ashby's. I was like, oh, I'm not going to like Jenks. And then I loved Jenks, and it did the whole thing throughout the whole book with all the different characters, and I loved each and every one of them. They were so good. Except Dr. Chef. I don't think he got his own chapter, did he?
No, but we learned an awful lot about Dr. Chef throughout the... I mean okay, by his name, he was their doctor and he was their chef. And that's the only reason that's his name, is because we wouldn't be able to pronounce it. He says that, like, because he's got multiple voice boxes, and he's more of a noise. His name would be a noise to us, and we wouldn't be able to pronounce it, X, Y, and Z. So they put him as his jobs, and he's the doctor and he's their chef. And we don't, like, again, he doesn't really have a specific chapter. There's no specific event, essentially, for him. But we learn a huge amount about him.
From the other characters.
From the other characters, and from him dealing with the other characters. You know, kind of when I suppose when Rosemary's Secret's revealed, and how he kind of, like, I actually thought it was brilliant. It made a lot of sense. It kind of set right with me in my own bones when he was talking about it. But he was like, okay, we both fall out a window and you fracture your elbow, but I break my entire arm. Yes, my injury is more serious than yours, but that doesn't denigrate your injury. It doesn't.
It's still hurting, you know?
Yes. And he obviously talks about that in terms of emotion and the context in which he puts it in, and the war and the atrocities committed by on their people are terrifying. And I think as a character, because I wasn't sure how to take him at the start. Because I thought he was going to be that kind of goofball. Oh, I'm the wacky alien in the chef, and I'm also your doctor.
Yeah, like Neelix or whatever, you know.
Yes, and thank God he wasn't Neelix.
Thank God.
But no, it just, I don't know. I really, really took. I don't know. It was kind of having a talk with your granddad or something like that. Do you know what I mean? He was a sage, old, wise character.
A little 6-year-old who's also a cutie pie, and
yeah,
it's just so sweet.
Okay. Kizzy and Jenks, I thought were going to kind of annoy me. I thought they were, because I mean, Kizzy, let's be honest, you compared it earlier to kind of Firefly. For me, it felt really much on the lines of she's basically Kaylee. Like the way she kind of dressed herself.
Yeah.
I couldn't not get Kaylee out of my head. Now the only difference between her and Kaylee is Kizzy is a lot more mature. Kizzy is a lot more outspoken. Kizzy is an awful lot more adult about everything. And
well, we can go that far now, but I wouldn't say she's more adult than Kaylee, but she's like super hyperactive. I'd say Kizzy has ADHD or some shit. She cannot.
Well, I mean, and to be fair, literally, she turns around and she's like, "Do you want to get smashed and play Battle Wizards?" And then, when they survive the attack on the ship, she's like, literally, "I need to get laid. I need to go out and I need to get laid." That's how I met. Kaylee is more mature, but Kizzy I think is more grown up. We'll say.
Oh, okay, fair enough. But I think she was. The way those quirky characters can get really irritating, like Phoebe from Friends. You kind of want to shake her and be like, "You're not funny. You're not weird. You're just stupid." But Kizzy was like,
okay.
I hate Phoebe. Kizzy was so quirky, but it all worked really well. Like even at the end where she had the fixed spots and she was like knitting them hats and shit.
Oh yeah.
Them. Like it was so cute,
I felt bad. I left them in their boxes too long, so I'm knitting them.
Yeah, it's so sweet. But there were kind of a few heartbreaking moments, obviously, in this as well. Like it really touched so much of you. Like you laughed, you cried, you know. But I think the most heartbreaking one for me was when Sizzix was in the market and she hugged and bonded or whatever it is with that old woman who seemed to have autism or something, and she couldn't socially interact with others.
Yes, yeah.
I loved how she made it out to be that in their species, you need to touch other people. Like you would just waste away into nothingness if you didn't. And the fact that she'd never had a feather before, oh my God, my heart broke.
No, and that's that whole thing carries out within the space of maybe 2.5-3 pages.
Yeah, it does, and it was amazing.
This isn't you and I going, oh my God, those 2 chapters where Sizzix reached out to this old woman and there's this amazing embrace and they're all about it. It occurred in maybe 2.5 pages. This was a chunk of the book dedicated to this. This was an encounter in a market between 2 members of the same species and Sizzix reaching out. And then I think especially as the book progresses on, I mean, we get to see Sizzix on her in her home with her family or her family.
Yeah.
Or not her feather family, her hatch
family. Our hatch family.
Yeah. That interaction is just it means an awful lot more. I mean, even Rosemary kind of says that herself. She can see now, and because that's an awakening for Rosemary as well. In a big sense, it's a case of she's kind of shut herself off from everything, in the way that all kind of human beings kind of, it's easier if I shut down rather than embrace it. So I'm going to just put it in a box and put it over here, and it will occasionally eat at me. And that happens to a lot of the human members on the crew. Like Kizzy when they were first attacked, and I mean, she has no idea how to deal with that. She has no idea how to process that the assault on Ashby, and then her holding him and he covered in blood, and she discusses that later on with Pei, and she's kind of like, okay, what do I do? And then Pei's like, you don't do anything. Like I would be just as fucking scared. I'm scared all the time. And it was just. It's brilliant. Like it was just. I don't know if anybody watching it was reading it along with us, and if you kind of felt the same way about the characters, or if you kind of thought, well, it was stupid or whatever. But I don't know. For me, I don't know. I could kind of identify even with the aliens and such. I could kind of identify with a lot of the things that was being spoken. Kind of being shared between them. It was just. I don't know. Even though they were alien, it was all kind of rather human.
It was the way that, you know, you can be extremely different cultures, you can look totally different, you know, and there's so many things that bind it together. Like, I love that little mini chapter. I think it was like an email blast that Rosemary got or something, and it was like an article or an essay on speaking about, you know, how different all the aliens were across the galaxy, across the Galactic Commons, and yet they had so many things in common, like needing air and needing water, and, you know, kind of many of them being like, you know, humanoid in kind of shape, but it's not called humanoid, whatever, but you know, it was really, really interesting. It was a really cool chapter to read that. But yeah, no, like there were some ones that obviously would kind of freak you out, like the Quillen. I kind of imagined them as a big lobster or something.
Oh yeah, no, to be fair, they were described literally as a lobster centaur.
Lobster centaur, yeah.
That phrase, I went, ugh.
I know, gross, like. But the Hermione as well, they had like bits like
they were just goo. Yeah, they were just goo in kind of mechanical chair. A lot of them you're like, and again, I was like, oh my god, I'm so speciest. I'm totally misjudging them. In my head going like, no, they're really cruel. Like some of them were really, even what was the final race? Is it the Toemi or the
Toemi? Yeah.
Yeah, even the way they were described, I was like, oh, they just sound so harsh. I mean, that was the sentiment even shared by, you know, Syzyx and Dr. Chef, and you know, this wasn't the case of, oh, it was just Rosemary being weird. No, they're literally described as they will tear each other. They did. It says that
they literally tear each other to pieces. Yeah.
Yes, over the slightest disagreement of an opinion that isn't shared by the group en masse, and that person could literally be ripped limb from limb.
And that the Galactic Commons wanted to let these people have access to all the other areas in the galaxy just because of like resources and money. You know, so that was
Ambi, isn't it?
An Ambi, yeah, Ambi, the thing that runs the bore or whatever, to do, and the whole job that they have to do on the way for punching tunnels through space. That was so cool, and I loved the way they described it with the sub-layer, and you know, it was just so imaginative. And I'm sure she probably had to do a bit of like research into like physics and stuff to be able to kind of figure that out in her head and say it properly, because you know when Kizzy was explaining the physics, she's like, oh, you're a physics virgin, and I had to read that shit like 5 times and I still didn't understand what the hell she was saying.
No, to be fair, I was like, a physics virgin, yep, and I'm just gonna gloss over that. It's space, it's magic. I was like, no, I
don't need facts in my fiction. I don't need facts in my fiction. But
exactly.
Who was your favorite character? They're all so good.
Yeah, no, it is a kind of a. I know you kind of said, oh, you know, Rosemary sucks in comparison to the rest. I do kind of disagree with you. I know you weren't saying she was a bad character. I think you were saying in terms of you know, Chef and Syzyx, but even I don't. Because like you said, every time you read a book, there's always one or two characters like, oh, get away from me, I'm done with you, or I love you so much. I just love the crew of the Wayfarer. I really, really do. I just like
it's like the Firefly crew. You just love everybody.
Yes, it was just everything worked so well together. I mean, even Corbin, which is like, you know what I mean. So much of Corbin, because obviously for the start, you meet him at the very start, and he says like maybe 10 things, and they're really rude and they're really abrupt, and then he just vanishes for like the next maybe 4 or 5 chapters or 6 or 7 chapters, whatever it is, and then he comes in and he gives out to Rosemary. Then they get boarded, and he says something else. He's just a really cool character, and then you know towards the end of the book we learn a little bit about him and who he is, his origins, and then you're kind of going, oh my god, like. Even having, you know, because I would consider that a spoiler. So for anyone that's watching that hasn't read, I don't want to give that away. But I think for me, my favorite, if I had to pick one, if you forced me to pick one character, I'm
tough shit. Like
no, it's okay. I can't wait to use squirm for it. So I'm gonna say Rosemary. Like
you just always have to be like okay, fine, you love Rosemary, right?
I do, best character ever.
Well, I think it's pretty obvious who my favorite was. I loved Dr. Chef. Every single mention of him, every scene he had, he just warmed my heart, and he just made me. I just wanted to be his best friend. I just wanted to be in the kitchen with him and just making soup, and Oh, he was just such a sweetheart. But I loved Sizzix as well. I thought she was a really good character.
But that's it, because it's like, I love Dr. Chef, I love Sizzix, I love Kizzy and Jenks, and I love Ashby.
Yeah. But Corbin got on my nerves most of the time, but by the end, I liked him as part of I especially liked what he did with Ohan, because everybody else didn't have the balls to do that.
Okay. Because again, let's not go into, because there might be some people watching that haven't or are going to watch it or are going to see the book after. But yeah, I have to say I was really fucking shocked. I was like, I actually gasped. I actually gasped when it happened. It was like, I was like, wow. It was because of telenovela shit. I was like, oh my god. But yeah, no one else was ever going to do that. Nobody else was ever going to do that, but Corbin. And it just, the thing is, I can see why he did it, and I respect why he did it. I mean, it was terrible what he did, but I do kind of respect him for it.
He needed, like, Ohan needed that. Like, throughout the whole thing, I was like, okay, you know, when you heard Ohan kind of scared of death and he was talking about that stuff, and I was like, okay, Ohan is eventually going to come to reason. But it became clear by the end that no, he was just gonna like do what he was gonna do. And Corbin was just like, okay, I know this is my friend, this is my colleague, and he's being like, this isn't him, like it's not actually him, he's being made to do this. So like he was saving him, and everybody else was just gonna watch him, you know, be taken over. You know, it was just terrible. But Corbin, like, he knew that people would be pissed at him, but he knew he was doing the right thing.
We have a few we have a question, and then because you do know that there's book club questions at the back of the book, which I feel every book should now come with this, a reading group guide. But was there any parts or characters that you didn't like?
Characters that I didn't like?
Yeah. Or even any parts of the book that you didn't like?
I can honestly say no.
Yeah.
I actually don't think there was a single one.
I mean, I disliked characters because you're meant to just dislike them because of, you know, things that happen. You're like, oh yeah, I really didn't like that.
Well, yeah, the Tarimi Ka being dicks, and like, you know, the Krillin like taking Corbin, and but
again, you're meant to dislike that.
Yeah.
There was no parts of the book that I was a little bit like, oh, this is dragging, or this is slow, or this is boring.
The only thing that I had trouble with was maybe like understanding the different terms that she created, but once I got used to it, I thought it was so cool. Like, I know you didn't like the 10 days and the standards, but it made sense that if that far in the future, things wouldn't always be dictated by 7 days.
Because they do make reference to, like, you know.
Hello. Oh dear. Great. Freeze screen.
I can see you.
You can hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Nice internet.
It's not me. It's your crappy internet. You're up the north.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the same with any book. You know, when you're like fantasy or sci-fi, where you're getting into it and you're being kind of thrown these new terms. You're like a little bit like, okay, that's it's a little confusing, but you'll kind of get, and then eventually you do kind of get used to it. You're like, but I did actually, when I finished reading the book, I went back through all the chapters, because it does tell you where on the calendar, you know, this stuff is happening.
Yeah, so I didn't even pay attention to that. I noticed it was there, but
I was like, okay, I obviously knew the book takes place across a standard year, but it wasn't really until I went back to it and I go, okay, oh, that happened at that time. Okay, that makes more sense. And then how, I suppose, even though it's 400 pages, the book does not feel like it's 400 pages long.
No.
I think, I know we said, oh, it feels like nothing happened, but like loads of little things happen, and loads of little things kind of just, and again, that's kind of the way.
It should be like nothing happened, as in like in the way that in a traditional book, you know, you'd have your bit where something really badly goes wrong, and then there's like the anti-climax.
Either they fix it or it gets worse, and you're on to the next book.
Yeah, but like
there's no real kind of beginning, middle, and end with this one. It was just they're on a journey, and you're with them.
Yeah, it's the journey, exciting event, journey, exciting event, journey, exciting event, journey. So, you know, it just kept going on. It was so consistent.
We've 2 questions from Tendai, who couldn't be with us. But which character did you relate to most?
Well, definitely not Sizzix anyway. I hate when people touch me.
Yeah, same as. Get off me. I'm probably gonna identify a little bit with probably Ashby.
I was gonna say the same thing.
Yeah,
why? I
don't know. Because I mean, he's not. I think Ashby's kind of a good kind of middle ground for humans, or the kind of portrayal. You know, he's not out to do he. I don't know. It's just he's so grounded in everything that he wants. You know what I mean? And none of it is, you know, he doesn't want a whole lot of money. He doesn't want a huge ship. He doesn't want. All he wants is enough to get by, a place that he can call his own, and his family, who are his friends, around him, or at least nearby, that they can be together, and they can, just be, I suppose, just be happy. And
and he's with his sexy Elowen girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
And his sexy Elowen girlfriend.
Oh yes, obviously, because
he's important, Declan. Yeah, no, Ashby definitely, but I suppose maybe Rosemary as well, because, I suppose when you're in like this kind of a stage in your life, you like have a lot of things that you'd like to put in your past. I mean, maybe you won't lie about them, but you definitely want to like see the back arse of them and go out somewhere where nobody knows you and you can just kind of start anew. So I suppose you could definitely relate to that kind of thing as well.
Ted, I also asked if you could join the crew, what would your role be?
Oh, I'm so useless. What would I do? Because there's already a chef, and I love cooking, but I don't think he'd let me in the kitchen, really.
No. I think, I'd probably have a role that's kind of similar to Rosemary.
Admin stuff.
Yeah, admin. Or I'd be interested in kind of doing something along the lines of a bit more kind of diplomatic as such. So, you'd be kind of like, I suppose, kind of like almost like the ship's ambassador, we'll say.
You'd be like HR.
Yeah, HR for the ship. As I was saying, ambassador for the ship, I realized I kind of referred to myself as Inara from I'm not going to be the ship's whore. I'm not the ship.
Let's go with the fancy title.
Yeah, HR, I'm human resources.
I could be the morale officer. How about that? Yeah, I really don't know. I think
so just silent there for some reason.
I think it'd be one of those roles where I'm just kind of along for the ride, and occasionally I'll do something that will really help out with some stupid knowledge or something.
You could be Corbin's assistant.
I'm not gonna be his assistant. I would kill him probably.
Yeah,
also, Aggie is close. The way she like gardening and stuff. Maybe I could be like Saz from Voyager and grow all the veg and stuff for them to eat in the garden. I could be the gardener. How about that?
There you go. You can be our gardener.
Green fingers. I have a role. Okay.
Okay, we're nearly at the hour mark, and we usually don't go over that normally. So there's 7 questions. So do you want to take the first? Okay, I'll ask you the first one. You ask me the second one. We'll take it in turns.
We'll definitely not get through 7 questions. Better make them.
Okay. So okay. Okay. Is The Long Way, with its emphasis on friendship and family, a comfort read? And what makes it a comfort read?
Well, it's definitely a comfort read. It makes you feel all happy inside, like you had a hot chocolate, I mean, it makes you cry your eyes out too, but it always something that,
I was one of those really obnoxious people, when they're reading a book, they go, and then Alan would go, what are you laughing at? And I was like, oh, it's something in the book I can't tell you.
I am so glad I don't live with you. Anyway, it is kind of it's not like a hug. A book can't give you a hug, but there's they're kind of almost written to show you the better side of life and the better side of humanity and people, and they're aliens. They're really, really different, but you can definitely apply the stuff that they do there to your own life and remind yourself that people aren't terribly shit. Some of them aren't.
Well, see, that brings me, because I think the other question we should maybe spend a little time talking about is question 6, which is, Science fiction is often seen as escapist literature, and certainly the characters in Long Way are trying to escape things in their own lives. Does reading provide an escape from real life? And what else do we do to get away? Massive. Okay, I mean, yeah, I think anybody who reads any kind of book is looking for a bit of an escape. Be that, 5 or 10 minutes of respite where they're like, okay, I don't have to pick up the phone. I don't have to talk to anyone. I can just sit down and I can immerse myself in this book, in these pages. And whether that's a science fiction novel, fantasy, whether it's a graphic novel, a comic book, a
romance,
or even a real biography, a history book, whatever, it doesn't make a difference. It is escapism.
But people in sci-fi books that read sci-fi books are really, really trying to escape their life. They want to read books so far from their life.
I would kind of, okay, maybe that's their intention, but I think subconsciously that's not what we're doing. I think subconsciously when we're reading science fiction, we're kind of looking for kind of answers for stuff that's happening now. I mean, if you look at, if you take The Long Way, for example, like Becky Chambers is quite definitive of what happens to our planet if we keep going the way we're going. We're extremely self-indulgent, we're extremely selfish, we're extremely violent to
warmongers and
yes, and she sees it that is how our planet will die, and these are things happening to us right now. So even though we're reading this book set thousands of years into the future, where Earth has colonized Mars and we also have a colony in space, like it's just the issues are like fine. They might be interspecies or it might be species. It doesn't make a difference. It's stuff happening to us right now. It's stuff that we can pull back. So even though we're escaping from the moment that we're sitting in, we're kind of dealing with it through science fiction. We're finding our answers that way. I mean, if you look at it, I mean, gender is not an issue in the future for Becky Chambers. And I would hope that, again, given all that's going on in terms of gender and we'll say even transgendered people and the fight for civil rights, I can't put down the book. I can't pick up that book and kind of go, okay, I'm going to blot out what's happening in the world right now and not deal with it. When you're dealing with a kind of a future where gender isn't an issue, and you kind of come back from that kind of going, oh, well, hopefully. I mean, that's what I brought a lot of hope from that book. I brought a lot of, like you said, warm, happy, fuzzy feelings that fine, the planet might be dead, but the human race doesn't die, and we become slightly where we are right now. So that's the escapism, and we kind of bring a little bit of that back with us when we pick up those pages and we go off those distant worlds. We bring a little of that back, and hopefully it gets us through the next couple of days or weeks or whatever it is. I don't know.
I guess in a way of escaping the way things are now, but seeing it in a warped, better version of it in the future. I suppose it's optimistic in that way and stuff.
Just an interesting comment there from Fuzzy Meg Gaming. The planet will be fine. We, the human race, will be gone. Yeah, I kind of.
It's probably a good thing. I mean, we are parasites, aren't we?
Yeah, no. I mean, I think that's towards the end of the book. That is kind of slightly discussed. When about humans joining the GC, and they kind of talk about how, like, what was our worth, what did we bring into this kind of galactic federation as such of different species, different planets, different solar systems. And we really, I mean, if you were to read the dossier, I don't know if you read it or you just skip past it, but if you read that chunk, and I can't remember what race it was. I think it was the lobster centaurs.
The Quillen.
Yes, I think it was what was it? A Quillen. A Quillen politician or a Quillen member of the GC that more or less said, why are we asking these people in here? They have no resources. They have no new technology that we need. They're bringing no new kind of cultural relevance to us.
They don't have spikes. They're squishy. Yeah.
Yes, they're stupid and useless. Why would we bring them in? Yeah. And you're sitting there going, oh crap! Like, but then if you bring that back to the last couple of chapters of the book, when that the new race, the Tuemi, that you're kind of going, okay, we've just kind of gone through they're violent, they're dangerous, they're hot-headed, and actually make some really interesting and really important points at that stage, but ultimately, like we
changed like the course of the Galactic Commons potentially, and he was just a stupid human, you know.
Yeah. So it just like I don't know. I don't necessarily think. I mean, and as I said, video games, comic books, music, TV shows, movies, going out for a sail on the river, all of that is a form of escapism.
Yeah.
But I think for science fiction, I think we're kind of maybe hoping to get off world to find answers for stuff happening in kind of the here and now. So I don't know. I suppose, Mary, what was your, if you give it a rating out of 5? Why do I do this thing with my hand? It's like shadow puppets. What was your rating out of 5 if you were to?
See, I don't. People are just difficult. Like, I never give 5 stars for anything, but I totally would give this 5 stars. I loved everything about it. So, I mean, am I gonna just give it 4 just to be pedantic? You know, I mean, I loved it. I would give it 5. Yeah. I'd recommend it to everybody.
To be honest with you, I'm gonna say the exact same thing. Absolutely, you know, I did. I was like, there's a sequel to the book, which, again, towards the end of The Long Way, they give kind of a teaser. And what I absolutely loved about it, it wasn't like, what do you mean there was more? Like, what the hell? No, this is a kind of continuation, but it's a whole new story.
Yeah.
And it's
taking one of the characters that wasn't explored that well,
and then kind of going, there is more here. And no, I have to say, I mean, like you said, Mary, I laughed, I cried, I chuckled, I gasped throughout it. I loved it. It's 5 stars for me. I thoroughly recommend it. I've been telling everybody to pick it up, just go out, because a few earlier on today when we were, you know, advertising the book club, we're a little bit like, oh, I've seen it in bookshops, I haven't picked it up yet. And yeah, I do say go out and get it. And on the flip side of that, when I was sharing the book club stuff myself and that we were reading this book, a few friends of mine had picked it up and they were a little bit like, oh, you know, I picked it up and I kind of got into the first few pages and I couldn't get into it. And for, you know, I was like, that, I don't know, I don't want to say I'm surprised. Like I said, I'm not a big science fiction reader. So I don't know, maybe for your hardcore science fiction people, it may not be, you know, the most in-depth, but I don't know, it did a lot for me as I was reading it. I don't know if that's what people are looking for. I think you'll get something from it.
It was just hardcore enjoyable. So
yeah, it is. And I think if you're looking for something, if you want something new to read and you're on the fence about a lot of things, I definitely say go pick up The Long Way to Small Angry Planet. You're not gonna be disappointed. I think we have decided on our next book, and I think most people, if you're like me, I own a copy of it. I've never, and I'll probably lose some nerd cred badges. I've never read it, but I own a copy of it. I think I was given it, or I got it in a loot box.
Yeah, I also have a copy of it, and I read like 10 pages, so I need to read it.
Okay, so for August, we are going to be reading Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. That is August's book of the month. So if you've read it, then great. If you haven't read it and you've been dying to read it, now's the chance to pick it up. With the movie kind of coming out, then it's a kind of a perfect time to get ahead of all that, to know what you're going to expect. So Ready Player One is August's book club of the month book.
You're being complicated again.
Yes, sorry, that's about just that. So
it's August's book, Ready Player One.
There we go. Mary used less words and it made more sense. So we hope that if you did pick up The Long Way and you read along with us, we hope you enjoyed it. Hopefully you're going to pick up Ready Player One and join us for August and read along with us. And we will see you at the start of September for that. And as always, for the latest news, reviews, everything to do with gamers and geeks, make sure you check out and stick with thearcade.ie. And we will talk to you all again soon.
Yes.